Chiefs Kingdom. Today on the Chiefs Report by Chat Sports, we are doing a video that I've told you guys is coming for a long time. But today is the day we take on the Chiefs' perfect offseason plan. My name is Jackson Durham, and like I just said, you are watching the Chiefs Report by Chat Sports. We always appreciate you being here with us, and today we are getting into my 4-stage plan for the Chiefs to massively improve in 2026. Everything I think they need to do to get better as fast as humanly possible. But before we get into everything that entails, I need to hear from you guys in the comments. What do you believe is the most important thing for the Chiefs to do this offseason? What would, if you were Brett Veach right now, what would be number one on your priority list? Would it be releasing Jawaan Taylor, restructuring Patrick Mahomes' contract to save some cap space, getting a new offensive coordinator to replace Matt Nagy, figuring out who we're going to take at number 9? What is your number one priority if you are Brett Veach? Let me know in the comments. And let's get into this thing. Number one on our agenda, not necessarily the number one priority, but in some ways I do think you could argue this is the number one priority. Figure out who is going to lead the offense and overhaul the staff in general, especially on the offensive side of the ball. And that's already begun in some ways, but it needs to be expanded. We got rid of Connor Embry. We got rid of Alex Whittingham. Embry, if you're not familiar, we haven't talked about this in a long-form video, but I did do a very celebratory short the night that it happened. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss our shorts as well. That is the fastest way to Chiefs news and rumors. Sometimes I can't get on here and do a long-form video, but I can do a short for you guys, and that will be out there, and that is your number one source of the latest Chiefs news. And in this instance, we were talking about the firing of Connor Embry, our receivers coach, who I have said multiple times needs to go. And he is now finally gone. But if you're not familiar with why I was so negative around Embry, and a lot of people said I was a hater, and I'll take it. You know what? I'm not a hater of Embry personally, but I was a hater of him being on the Chiefs staff because his only experience as a coach was Fairview High School in Colorado. That guy should have never been on our staff. He had a couple other high schools in there as well as experience. But high school coaching was the highest level of experience that Connor Embry had before he became the Kansas City Chiefs receivers coach. What are we doing? No. You don't hire from high school in the NFL. You don't keep that guy for multiple years and let him develop multiple early round drafted receivers. What are we doing? It's no wonder those guys generally didn't work out. Mecole Hardman, Sky Moore, Xavier Worthy's really struggled to begin with. Rashee Rice had a terrible season in a lot of ways. I don't think it's a particular surprise when that's the guy you've got coaching. But positional changes will not fix this. You need to get better coaches in the positional spots for sure, but you need a different thinker at the top under Andy Reid of this offense. Obviously, Andy Reid is going to retain his job as the play caller. I think that's going to be the case. But you can get a different thinker in here, someone to challenge him. Maybe someone who'd even be comfortable with taking over play calling duties. If Mike McDaniel was our offensive coordinator, head coach of the Miami Dolphins for the last couple seasons, guy who's led some of the best offenses in the NFL over that stretch, you think he wouldn't be comfortable with him calling plays? I think there's a chance. I absolutely think there's a chance that if Mike McDaniel came in here, that's my number one OC for the Chiefs, by the way, if it wasn't already clear, that Andy Reid would cede play calling duties to him. And I think that would be an enormous boon for our offense. I absolutely do. A couple other guys that maybe, if you can't get Mike McDaniel, 2 other guys to think about. Nate Scheelhaase would be a great hire, in my opinion, current pass game coordinator for the Los Angeles Rams. He's getting a little head coaching buzz. I don't quite think he's ready for the head coaching job just yet. Don't think that's coming in this cycle for him. But I do think a step up to offensive coordinator from passing game coordinator is on the way for Nate Scheelhaase. That could absolutely come in Kansas City. I wouldn't mind that one bit. And the other guy to think about is Kliff Kingsbury, former head coach of the Arizona Cardinals, most recently offensive coordinator with the Washington Commanders before they agreed to mutually part ways for him to pursue head coaching opportunities this offseason. If one of those doesn't come, maybe he comes back down to being an offensive coordinator, and he said multiple times the quarterback he wants to work with is the quarterback on the Kansas City Chiefs. I have my own reservations with some aspects of Kliff's scheme, but he's had success, and if you can't get McDaniel and you can't get Scheelhaase, settling for Kliff Kingsbury, if you can call it that, wouldn't make me upset at all. Wouldn't make me upset at all. Definitely rather have the front two options, but Kliff Kingsbury would be a fine back option. Either way you dice that pie, you need to figure out who's leading the offense underneath Andy Reid. That needs to be a top priority. Also needing to be a top priority, get your cap space back in order. You are sitting on negative $58 million in cap space heading into the 2026 offseason right now. Negative $58 million. I did not stutter. I did not misspeak. It is the lowest cap space in the entire NFL, unsurprisingly. And you're going to have to make some moves. Not just going to magically generate cap space here. We're going to have to release a couple guys. Jawaan Taylor and Drue Tranquill come to mind for me. Those two releases together will save you $26 million. I think they could both be good moves for this offense. Possible restructures that you could make to save additional money. Number one, the one you're going to have to do, the one that everyone knows is coming, Patrick Mahomes. You're going to save $44 million if you can restructure Mahomes' contract, which he will do. He's been open to doing that in the past. And again, that doesn't cost him anything to do. It guarantees more of his money and delays it a little bit. It costs him time, I guess, but it doesn't cost him actual money. Chris Jones, he's going to, if you restructure him, that'll save $22 million. Getting towards the end of that contract, though, may not be the wisest restructure in terms of how much money you might be on the hook for if you wanted to release Chris Jones before the end of that contract. So something to think about there as far as that is concerned. And then the other two possible restructures, if you didn't want to go down the Chris Jones route, you could restructure Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith and save almost the same amount of money from Chris Jones with those two combined. That would be $20 million combined on those two, $22 million with Chris Jones alone. You do everything that I just mentioned, that includes restructuring Chris Jones and Creed and Trey, you would save $114 million. That's the most aggressive you can be. And in my opinion, be aggressive. Be aggressive. You have Patrick Mahomes. I shouldn't have to tell you this. Every year is part of the Super Bowl window. And if you're not attacking it like so, get out of the way. That would be my opinion. You're mishandling the Kansas City Chiefs. If Brett Veach is not approaching this offseason as how do we do everything that we can, be as aggressive as humanly possible to get back into Super Bowl contention as fast as humanly possible, then you have failed and we need a new direction. But I'm going to operate as if that is the direction. So we're going to do everything that we just listed. And we're going to move from negative $58 million in cap to positive $56 million. And from that point, we could start to make some more decisions. We can start to decide who's coming back. And a couple guys I think have to come back. Travis Kelce, if he wants to. You don't let him walk. You do not let him go suit up for another team. He is a franchise legend. He will finish his career in Kansas City, whether that's this season or at the end of next. Brian Cook, I would also love to see him come back. I think that might cost you $10 to $14 million. He is worth it. We saw times when he was not on the field for this defense, the dip, and how good he was when he was available. Don't let him get out of here. Two more. Kareem Hunt on a very cheap deal. I think you can keep him. We'll let the rest of the running back room, other than Brashard Smith, who's obviously still on his rookie contract, walk. But Kareem Hunt comes back on a cheap deal. And Leo Chenal, if it's affordable. If it's affordable. If it isn't absolutely ridiculous to return Leo Chenal, I would definitely be happy to do it. But that would be my number one thing, is if that contract is just ridiculous, then do not re-sign Chenal. But if it's affordable, that's the move you make, especially if you're going to release Drue Tranquill. I don't think you can afford to also let Chenal hit the market. Guys, we are going to let hit the market. Mike Edwards, Isaiah Pacheco, Jerry Tillery, Jalen Watson, Juju Smith-Schuster, Marquise Brown, and Derek Nottie. I think all of those guys are going to end up hitting the market, and I think that's okay. At the end of the day, some of those guys have played themselves out of our price range. Jalen Watson, that's a great example. Just been too good. We're not going to be able to afford to re-sign him. He's going to probably command $15 to $20 million on the open market. We've had that conversation already. Don't think it makes sense to keep Jalen Watson. But I do think it makes sense to keep the rest of the guys that we talked about. The next two steps on this are absolutely the most important ones. I really, really, truly feel that way. But before we get into them, I got to give a shout out to the sponsor of today's video. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Whether you're starting a new routine or making player picks for the first time, trying something new can be hard, but in life and on Prize Picks, it always feels good to be right. With high-pressure playoff matchups every weekend and elite hoops action almost every night, the action never stops, and Prize Picks lets you take control. Prize Picks now has early payouts. If your player gets off to a hot start, you now have the option to cash out those winnings before the game even finishes. And speaking of lineups, I've got my lineup put together for tonight's game, the Monday night game between Pittsburgh and Houston. I'm going with the less on Aaron Rodgers' passing yards. I'm going with the more on CJ Stroud's touchdowns, the more on Kenneth Gainwell's rushing yards, and the less on Woody Marks' rushing yards. So you could tail me on this lineup. You could fade me on this lineup. Whatever you do, just do it at Prize Picks, because Prize Picks puts their users first, so all withdrawals are fast and secure. They accept most major payment methods, making deposits into your account quick and easy this sports season. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. Indeed, it is good to be right. And the right move for Kansas City in free agency is to attack it as hard as you can. Go after this thing. With the money you've saved on restructures and releases, with the signings that you've made, I still think you can be aggressive in free agency. You should still have enough money left to execute the plan that has been laid out. And we've talked about this plan before. But this has been rumored on 95.7 The Fan. They talked about this. 2 defensive tackles, 2 edge rushers, 1 running back. That was what Bob Fesco was saying is Kansas City's plan for free agency. Get that handled in free agency. Don't attack that in the draft, but attack it in free agency. So we're going to talk about options at every single one of those positions. First up, defensive tackle, 3 guys. DJ Reader, John Franklin Myers, and Justin Jones. DJ Reader is coming from Detroit. He's been a strong run defender throughout his career. Been a couple other stops as well. John Franklin Myers, another guy who's bounced around the league, more of a pass rusher along with the run defense ability, has also been an edge at times in his career. So kind of a 2 birds, 1 stone solution with John Franklin Myers. I think you could plug him in at either option, although he's played more inside in Denver. And then Justin Jones from Arizona, another more run-stuffing type of defensive tackle. Possible edge options in free agency. And I tried to limit this to guys that fit Steve Spagnuolo's scheme because, look, we've had major issues with that. We're going to talk about that when it comes to the draft. But I think Joey Bosa would be a fit. Might be a little out of the price range depending on how much cap is left over, which, again, that's something that's hard to estimate. I know you guys are probably wondering, like, how much cap do we actually have left to attack this? I wish I could give you an exact number, but it's just so hard with trying to figure out where the contracts are. I think ultimately after you figure out all of your re-signings and restructures and whether or not that means Kelsey's coming back, you could be heading into the free agency window with about $20 million in usable cap to attack for that season. So a couple signings. You can make several small signings or maybe 1 or 2 bigger signings. I think they're probably going to end up on the several smaller signings. But if you did make 1 big signing, what I would want it to be would either be an edge, like Joey Bosa, who maybe a 1-year solution to a problem, so maybe not the preferred one, but a running back would maybe be my preferred option. And that running back in particular would be Breece Hall. I've talked about Breece a lot. I think Breece could be a real solution to the problems you've had at running back and problems you've had establishing the run consistently. But at the end of the day, that's a contract that probably costs you north of $12 million annually. Easily north of $12 million annually. Probably $13, maybe $14 million annually. That's in that Kyren Williams range. That's in that James Cook range. That is likely what Breece Hall is able to command. But pairing Patrick Mahomes with a truly elite number 1 running back like that would be hard for me to turn down in a lot of ways. That's something that is so appealing, to have that kind of guy in the backfield with Patrick Mahomes, to be able to threaten defenses, to be that multiple. Man, like how lucky is Josh Allen that he gets to play with James Cook, a truly elite running back? How much would you give to have a guy of James Cook's caliber in the backfield with Mahomes, making defenses account for that as well? I'd give a lot. I'd give 13-14 million annual. If I had it, I don't have it, but I think the Kansas City Chiefs, who do have it, who can give that 13-14 million annual to Breece Hall to solve this problem, should absolutely do that. That should be a huge part of the attack strategy, in my opinion. And it doesn't mean you can't still attack defensive tackle and edge. I think Justin Jones and maybe a Dante Fowler Jr. could be reasonably priced solutions at those positions. Obviously, you're not getting the same impact that you would get if you went DJ Reader, Joey Bosa, but it still allows you to attack Breece Hall, still allows you to upgrade around Patrick Mahomes, which should always be a focus. As long as you have Patrick Mahomes, you should be doing everything you can to surround him with the best people possible on offense. But I want to hear from you. Who would be number one? We've talked about 9 guys we've kind of thrown out names on. I'm going to go through them all again. DJ Reader, John Franklin Myers, and Justin Jones are our defensive tackle options. Joey Bosa, Dante Fowler, and Denico Autry are our edge options. I don't know if I threw Denico Autry out there verbally, but he is on my list of guys. He is going to hit free agency this offseason. I do think he could be a good pickup from Houston. He struggled with injuries at times this season, but effective when he's on the field. And then we've got 3 options at running back. I only mentioned one of them by name, but 2 other guys to think about if you couldn't land Breece Hall, or if you wanted to spend more of your money in another direction. Maybe you end up with Javonte Williams from Dallas, who had a really nice year, or Rico Dowdle from Carolina, who had a very nice year, but is also looking to become that RB1. Do we offer enough carries in our offense for Dowdle to be happy? A lot of things to consider there, but I want to know from you, of those guys, of those names that I just gave out, who would be your number 1 target? If you could only have one. I'm only giving you the opportunity to take one. I don't care how much cap space we have. Right now, you can only get one of those guys. Who is it? Is it Breece Hall, DJ Reader, Joey Bosa, Javonte Williams, Rico Dowdle? Who do you like most? Let me know in the comments. And let's get into stage 4. Nail the draft. This, in some ways, is arguably the most important, maybe after getting an offensive coordinator, but it has to come in priority, or in order, I guess, maybe. Yeah, no, priority is still the right word here, because you got to do this first. You need to figure out who you're going to draft, and you need to do that as a fully aligned process from front staff to coaching staff. And what do I mean by that? I mean that draft decisions are not just Brett Veach likes this guy, so therefore we draft this guy. And now we're throwing him in with Andy Reid and Steve Spagnuolo, and we don't have a plan for this rookie. We don't really know exactly how he's going to work within the scheme, but Brett thinks he's a good player, so now he's on the roster. That's bad draft strategy. It may feel like good draft strategy to Brett Veach because it lines up with his draft board and where he feels like guys belong positionally and in the rounds, but I don't care. I don't care if we're drafting 7th-round value guys if they're guys that we actually will play. That's what it comes down to. Good players aren't good players if they can't see the field. They don't fit the scheme. They're not what the coach is interested in having. Aligned process has to be number 1 here, and you can't have a aligned process if you don't have an offensive coordinator. And right now we don't have an offensive coordinator. Nagy's not under contract. So that has to get figured out first. That's why I say priority still has to be on number 1, but this is huge. Once you are aligned on offense, once you have a coaching staff fully in place that you trust directionally, you need to figure out, how can I best equip you for success? And that needs to be a 2-way conversation, not a 1-way conversation, not where Brett Veach is talking at the coaching staff about who's coming in and this is how we're going to use them and this is the vision that I have. No. The vision needs to be aligned. This needs to be a collaborative effort between Steve Spagnuolo, between Andy Reid, between whoever that new offensive coordinator is, and Brett Veach, all working together with a cohesive vision of what makes the most sense in each round. How are we going to use this guy? What's the plan? How does he fit in with what we already have? Is he the right type of player for our system? I'm looking at you, Felix Anudike-Uzomah draft pick. First-round draft pick, that guy barely seen the field. Injuries have been a huge part of that as well. Not going to lie about it. Jalen Royals barely played this season. Noah Williams was great and barely played when anything actually mattered. Jaden Hicks has been in and out of the lineup. Xavier Worthy. I think he had his development hampered by Connor Embry, but even his usage has been spotty. All of these guys were early draft investments. Noah Williams and Jalen coming a little bit later. But you invested draft capital in these guys, and they did not see anywhere near the kind of usage that they should have in year 1. Or in years 2 and 3 for some of these guys. Has to be a more aligned process so that guys are getting on the field. First round targets that I feel like our aligned process might settle on, Jeremiah Love. Again, this is contingent on not signing Breece Hall. You don't get both of these guys in the same offseason, but Jeremiah Love would be an awesome option to be the lead back. Absolutely. I still think you bring back Kareem Hunt in that situation. I would want Jeremiah Love as the primary back, with Kareem Hunt retaining his role as a short yardage back. He's so effective in those situations. I don't think you get rid of him. Carnell Tate, if he's there for you, you take him every day that ends in Y, and if anybody in the audience can find me a day that doesn't end in Y, we would take him on that one as well. Ruben Bain, huge upgrade for your pass rush. Big upgrade for your ability to stuff the run, potential Chris Jones air in the interior of your defensive line. And lastly, David Bailey. Maybe not the best fit for Spagnuolo's scheme, which is maybe why you don't line up on him after a line process, but man, is he a fun player. He'd be a huge upgrade to the pass rush. If you could put on 20 pounds, he could play edge in Steve Spagnuolo's scheme. But David Bailey, ton of fun. But I think really more the 3 guys at the top, Love, Tate, and Bain, might be aligned process guys. Those might be guys that all 3 or 4, when you have the offensive coordinator of those guys, can get in the room together. And I say all 4 of those guys. I'm talking about Veach, I'm talking about Spags, I'm talking about Reed, and our hypothetical offensive coordinator, and agree. That's what it needs to look like every single time. I know we were brief on the draft today. I know we hit a lot in this video. I know this is a longer video. We're going to dive even deeper on the draft in future videos. We're going to dive deeper on every aspect of the offseason, free agency targets, guys we're going to re-sign, guys we're going to release. But make sure you are here for all of that. Make sure you are subscribed to the Chiefs Report by Chat Sports, because we are your #1 source of Chiefs news and Chiefs rumors all offseason long. I've been Jackson Durham. Thanks for hanging out with me today on a bit of a longer one. I will see you next time.